Hi, and welcome to ThreatTraq Essentials. We're going to review some everyday cybersecurity lessons that we can learn from this week's ThreatTraq stories. The first story was brought to us by Stan Lorilov, and it was about a phishing email attack that targeted cryptocurrency exchanges. Now, this is what was called a zero-day attack, which is very scary. A zero-day attack means it's based on an exploit that nobody knew about. And this was an exploit conducted on Macs that were using the Firefox browser. Now, the second scary thing about this story is that it's what's called a drive-by attack. That means that people got infected simply by opening up a page in their browser. They didn't click on anything, they didn't download anything knowingly. Instead, simply opening the page put malware on their computer. So a couple lessons to learn from this story. The first is, if you are a Mac user and you're using Firefox, you should patch this software immediately. The second lesson is, if you are a Mac user, like I am, don't think that you are immune to malware attacks. Just because you're using a Mac does not mean that you don't have to worry about cybersecurity. Our second story was brought to us by John Markley, and it was about an attack on Android devices using what's called the debugging port. That's a port that's in the Android device that is used for testing and diagnosing problems in a device. Now, usually these are shut off before a device is shipped, but in many devices, developers forget to shut it off and it's left open, and therefore the device is vulnerable. Now remember, when we're talking about Android devices, we don't just mean Android phones. There are IoT devices that also use the Android operating system. Now, what the bad guys were able to do was get into some of these devices, take them over, use them for cryptocurrency mining. In other cases, they were able to get in and steal credentials for the user's accounts. So, to protect yourself, it's important to remember to always know what ports are being exposed on your devices. What are you exposing to the internet? Especially things like debugging ports and diagnostic ports. If you ever turn them on for any reason, make sure that you turn them off to help keep your device safe. Our third story was brought to us by Michael Singer, and it was what's called a whaling attack. What's whaling? Well, we know what phishing is. There's also spear phishing, that's phishing attacks at specific people. And then there's whaling. That's going after big, high-value targets. In this case, these were people who were high up in the government in sensitive positions. And they received phishing emails that they didn't realize were coming from an adversarial nation state. It looked like a legitimate email. It didn't have any of the telltale signs of a phishing email, such as bad grammar or bad spelling. It was done very slick. And this email told them that we've identified you as someone that would be an ideal candidate to work in this other job, and please send your CV or resume to us. Well, some of them fell for it, sent their CV and resume, and in turn turned over a lot of personal information that could be used to exploit other attacks, places where they worked, projects they worked on, things like that. So the lesson here is to be careful what personal information that you share online, because it could be used against you in an attack. When you send out something like your CV or resume, know exactly who you're sending it to, and make sure that they're reputable. That's it for this week's ThreatTraq Essentials. As always, you can click on the playlist below to take a deeper dive into any of the stories. We'll see you next time.